also be on the AP Stats exam, which is coming up, or on the AP Stats class, which is coming up for some of y'all next year, and then for some of you maybe in the future as an option. But the statistics is something that you'll see again at some point. So in section that will also be on the AP Stats exam, which is coming up, or on the AP Stats class, which is coming up for some of y'all next. So in section 2, let me go through in section 2 for you here. Let's go back over the notes real quick, and then we'll get to the homework for today. So let me pull up the notes. And we should be able to make this fairly short. Remember, this is the end of the Phase 3 packet. They have set Phase 4 pickup for 1 to 3, or 1 to 3, I believe, on Monday. And I have your last week of material there. You can submit all of this material on Canvas, and if for some reason you're not able to, then you could also submit it online as well. So let me share again. Let me share with you yesterday's information. So there it is. So again, we talked about in 9.2 sampling, for an event to be random, there is no predetermined pattern or bias toward any particular outcome. So there's nothing that's predetermined about that, and nothing that's random. So a class of 25 students wants to choose 3 students, and we talked about for a class party, any set of 3 students would have an equal chance of being chosen. Which of the following strategies will result in a fair decision, and are they random? So the students line up alphabetically, and each one in succession flips a fair coin. The first 3 students to flip heads bring the food. We said that's not fair, because people at the beginning of the alphabet are more likely to be one of the first 3 chosen because they're flipping that coin first. Each student draws a card from a well-shuffled deck of 52 cards. The teacher shuffles a second deck of cards, spreads them out, and draws cards one by one until he matches the cards of the 3 students. We said, yes, that is fair and random because every student has a card and an equal chance of the teacher choosing them. In example 2, we talked about using a random number table. So we had 15 basketball players that were numbered from 01 to 15, and we needed to select 3 of those. So what we did was we started at the beginning. We went 2 digits at a time because we have to go 01 to 15, and we selected the first 3 basketball players. So we just circled 2 digits at a time. The first basketball player was player 7. The second one was player 4 right here, and the third one was player 12. Then we talked about a simulation, so how we could simulate rolling a die and it having to land on the number 6. So we go to our calculator, math, probability. We went over to random integer, 1, 6, and that will, when you hit enter there, that will simulate and give you a random number from 1 all the way through 6. And then, so what that does is it gives you a 1/6 probability of landing on a 6. Okay, so then on the second page, we talked about the sampling methods. There is convenient samples where you sample what's easiest for you. Voluntary response where people don't have to respond, and they just bring back, they can if they have a strong opinion. A systematic sample where you pick every 5th person or every 10th person or so many. A random sample where all members of the population are equally likely to be chosen, which would be also called a simple random sample. Then there's 3 types of studies. A survey where you're just asking a set of questions, an observational study where you're watching people do what they already do normally, and then a controlled experiment where you're imposing a treatment. We talked about the different types of samples. If you pick every 25th listing, it's a systematic sample, but it is biased because some people's phone numbers aren't listed. If you interview people on the street in a large city, it's a convenient sample because they're right next to you on the street, but it is biased because the time of day, the location, and just being on that one street can make it biased to give you a representation of the large city. And then a radio station asks people to call in. That's a voluntary response, and typically only people with strong opinions are going to call in. And then down at the bottom, we talked about survey questions. And to create an unbiased survey question, you don't want to combine two or more issues. You don't want to use double negatives. You don't want to have overlapping answer choices or words that cause strong reactions or leading questions. And in part A, do you think food and beverages being served in the cafeteria taste good? That's going to be biased because you have two different issues, food and beverages, and you're combining them into one problem. And then the second one, it says, don't you agree that school days should be shorter? That's biased because it's leading you to an answer. And then the third one says, do you prefer watching exciting movies or reading dull books? And I underlined the word exciting and dull. And that's biased because of the wording of the question creates a strong reaction. The words exciting and dull create a strong reaction towards one method. Okay, so let's go to the homework for 9.2 sampling. So in these first three questions, you want to identify the sampling method and why it's biased. So sampling method, you are going to have, and I'm going to let you do these, but you're going to have those four choices: a convenient sample, a voluntary response, a systematic, or a random sample. Okay, and that's how you're going to do 1 through 3. All right, in 4 through 7, you're going to identify what type of bias there is in a survey question. Okay, there may not be any, but if there is, look at the different types. Was it combining two or more issues? Was it using double negatives? Was it overlapping answer choices? Was it words that cause strong reaction? Or did it lead you to an answer? So that's what you want to do in 4 through 7. In question number 8, it says a committee surveys public response to a plan to add bicycle lanes to downtown city streets. Describe a sampling method that can be used for each population. So describe how you can sample the bicyclists in the city. Describe how you could sample the car drivers in the city. And describe how you could sample the downtown business owners in the city. How could you get a good random sample of each of those? What would you do? Okay, let's turn to the second page. Number 9 says a television show website asks every 20th person to name their favorite TV star. What type of sampling method is that, and how could that be biased? Okay, then we go to multiple choice. It asks you which one is an example of a random sample, and you have 4 options, and which is a characteristic of a biased survey question. So that means one that's not good, right? One that's favors a certain outcome. Okay, and then at the bottom, it says there is an extension, and it talks about the margin of error. So the margin of error is plus or minus 1 over the square root of n. N is the sample size. So in each of these, they want you to find the margin of error. So you look at your sample size. In this one, your sample's 1287. In this one, your sample's 323. In this one, those are the only two we're going to do. We're going to stop here. So in that one, your sample's 1287, and that one, your sample's 323. So we would say this is plus or minus 1 over the square root of 1287. And you'll see what that is. What is that margin of error? It's going to be a very small number. And in this one, you would say it is plus or minus 1 over the square root of 323. So the margin of error, what they want you to know is margin of error is how far off you can be, like how accurate you are. So the smaller your margin of error, if your sample size is bigger, you'll have a much smaller margin of error because you've got more people, which means you can be more accurate. If your sample size is not as big, you will not have as large of a margin of error, or a small margin of error. What you should notice is in problem 12, you will have a smaller margin of error than in problem 13, because in problem 12, you have a much larger sample size. So we're going to be able to get more accurate results, okay? So the goal for today would be to take that and take those questions from the 9.2 homework. And all you want to do is take the 9.2 homework and answer those as best you can. And a lot of that comes directly from our 9.2 notes that we did yesterday. You want to answer those, and then you want to upload that onto Canvas in the Math 3 course. And then that will actually finish out the entire Phase 3 packet. So if you want to look back over your Phase 3 packet and see, is there anything that I have not turned in or anything that I'm missing, now would be a good time to do that. That would be a good chance to go and make sure that you're doing all those and make sure that you've got everything turned in. And then I'm going to look at that over the weekend, and I'm going to make sure that you get your credit for doing those, and that we're moving on to our last week, which will be next week. Let me look in the chat here. We are not starting, so yeah, I was getting ready to go over that. So we will not, and I'll send this out in a remind just so people know. The next packet, the pickup, is Monday, so we will not meet on Monday for this class. We will actually just have 4 days next week. So if you will make sure you can tune in, it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be our meetings next week. So it'll be on May 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd will be our last 4 meetings. So again, on the 18th is your packet pickup day, and then the 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd will be the last 4 days will just be Phase 4. So Phase 4 is only 4 days, and it's kind of just a review, hopefully, of the course, and we'll be able to kind of wrap everything up that we've done. So I'm going to share with you the internet screen. If you look, I have added these two. So if you notice, for Unit 9 statistics, we had analyzing data. That was section 1. We had the notes on that. Then you had analyzing data homework, which talked about the mean, median, mode, range. Then we had IXL, which was on standard deviation and the variance. We then had 9.2, the sampling. That was the notes from yesterday. And then we have the sampling homework is the questions that I would like for you to go through today. I marked off 14 and 15, remember, on those homework questions. So you just do the others as you go through that. So once you're done, you turn all those in. And again, if you go back through all the phases, we started Phase 1 after school was dismissed in person. We started Phase 1, and Phase 1 was Unit 6. So we did Unit 6 polynomials as Phase 1. Phase 2 was Unit 7, rational expressions. That was our Phase 2. Phase 3 was Unit 8, logarithms and exponential functions. That was our Phase 3. And then Phase 4 now, continuing with Phase 3 was statistics, and then Phase 4 is going to be a review of the course. So we've gotten through the 9 units. Now we want to go back and look at what are the important things that they want you to be able to get and that you'll see moving forward. So what does the state and what do others feel are the most important takeaways from these 9 units? And that's what we'll focus on in your last 4 days. Okay, so with that, we had a short lesson. I'm going to give you time to go and do your homework. So I will leave this, and I'm going to get the participants that were here. But I will end this meeting in just a minute and allow you to go and get your homework done for that and be submitting that stuff on Canvas. So even though the meeting's over quick, I'd like for you to keep working and use this time to get through there. Monday, I'd like for you to go and pick up your Phase 4 packet. If you weren't able to submit Phase 3 online, you can bring it with you and turn it in, or anything else you weren't able to submit. And then I would, if you'll pick up Phase 4 on Monday, we'll start Tuesday at 9 a.m. And I'll be sending all that out on Remind and in your Canvas Messenger. So just look for more information there. And I hope you have a great weekend. I think it's going to be some nice weather. So enjoy your weekend and enjoy your time with your family. And we'll see you on Tuesday. All right. Have a good day.